Good afternoon, everyone. Class is now in session. My name is Mr. Ray, and I'll be your substitute teacher for today. But before we get into today's lesson, I wanted to talk a little bit about Michelangelo. And no, I'm not talking about the turtle. I'm talking about the artist of this painting. How many of you have seen this picture somewhere before? This is an image that Michelangelo painted up on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. It's called The Creation of Adam. The image on the left represents Adam, and the image on the right represents God. But when I see this painting, what I see is man reaching out to God and God reaching out to man. We reach for each other. And as you can see, we're almost touching. We're almost connecting. But there's a gap here. There's something that doesn't let us fully connect. Even though we're both reaching for each other, there's something that keeps us separate. Keeps us from really having the relationship we both want to have with each other. And that thing is called sin. S-I-N. Sin. That's what this gap here represents. Our sin is what separates God, who is holy, from us, who are not so holy. But God wanted us all in the world to be connected. But what happened? The world turned its back on God. The world chose sin over God. And God can't be around sin like that. So God had to separate himself from us. And because of sin, we became disconnected. And by being disconnected from God, who is love, we then became disconnected from each other. Because love is what connects us. Love is the thing that helps us have peace with one another, that helps us see past each other's differences. But God is love. And without him, we disconnect. But God loved us so much, he had to find a way to reconnect us. Not just to him, but to each other. So God had to turn himself into a man. He had to come down to our level just so he could be with us. Just so he could try to reconnect us. By God's grace, the gap between us and him is not as far away as we really deserve. And no matter how far you think your sin separates you from God, he's never too far away from you. By his love and by his grace and by his Son. So now that we understand a little about this broken relationship man has with God, let's get back to today's lesson, which is about peer pressure. Now, your peers are the people in your age group, like your classmates. Those are your peers. Your peers are really the people that you relate with the most. But when your peers try to pressure you into doing something you don't want to do, then it's called peer pressure. So they can pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. And they can make you rethink who you are and what you think. Now, why is that? Why do we care what they think or what they say? It's like their words seem to hold more weight to us. Why is that? It's because those are the people that you want to fit in with the most. That's why what they say can have power over us, because we want to be accepted by them. Because if we can convince our peers, the people on our level, that we're special, then maybe we can convince ourselves that we're special. We all want to fit in. I believe that every one of us, deep down in our hearts, there's a want to belong. There's a want to connect with others. You want to be liked. You want people to see how cool you are, how fun you are, how special you are. You want to be valued, because if we see no one thinks that we're special, then we start to think, well, maybe we're not so special. And chasing this one in us to belong and to be respected and accepted among our peers can sometimes lead us into becoming things that we're not. Some people lose themselves. They lose their identity. Just look at a girl like Miley Cyrus. Look how she started chasing a dream as Hannah Montana. But look who she became following the peer pressure in her life. But when our peers pressure us, when they try to get us to think their way or to do something that we don't want to do, they can make us think twice. And we'll think about it like, maybe I should do it because everyone else is doing it. So I don't want to be the weirdo. I want to be cool with the cool kids. There's that song, I wish that I could be like the cool kids because all the cool kids, they seem to fit in. I wish that I could be like the cool kids, like the cool kids. Admit it, you want to be cool. Too cool for school. Hey, I want to be cool too. But I want to be cool like Jesus is cool. Not like the world thinks it's cool. But everyone wants to fit in, like a puzzle piece that's part of the big picture. No one wants to be that puzzle piece that doesn't fit with the rest of the puzzle. What do you do with a puzzle piece that doesn't fit with the rest of the puzzle? You throw it away. Even in church, if you come and you don't connect with anyone, then you're not going to feel like you belong. And we find ourselves in this world trying to find where we fit in. But in the Bible, Jesus said this to his disciples. If you were of the world would love you as its own. But because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, that's why the world hates you. Stop trying to fit in with this lost world. Why are you trying so hard to fit in with people that don't even know, that don't even care about God? Because for you to fit in with them, then you'll have to lose something. You'll have to lose the fear of God. That's what it will cost you to fit in with them. Because they don't fear God. They're too cool for God. The closer you get to fitting in with this world, the further you're going to get from God. That's why you won't always fit in. Because you're not of the world. But God's chosen you out of the world. God never made you to fit in with this world. Before God formed you in your mother's belly, he knew you. And he sanctified you. He made you holy unto himself so you could be a prophet, a messenger of God to all the nations. Because those whom God has called, those he also justified. And those that he justified, those he also glorified. He made you to be different. He made you for his purpose, not so that you could fit in with this world, no. God made you to be the puzzle piece that reconnects him back with the world. The world that has turned its back on him. The world that has forgotten him. How could you forget your own creator? But through you, he can reconnect. Through you, he can reconnect with your friends. Through you, he can reconnect with your neighbors. Through you, he can reconnect with your family. You're the bridge between God and man. You're the one that fills that gap between God and man. This was God's plan for you from before you were even born. That's why you're here on this earth. Because they don't know God. They don't want to know God. Because they love their sin too much. And God's not going to force himself on them because God is a gentleman. He respects their choice. But because he loves them and he knows they really need him, God sent you so that you can convince them. Because when they see you, they're supposed to want to know him. You're supposed to remind them of Jesus Christ. But how can they if when they see you, you're acting just like them? So you have to choose. Either you could fit in with everyone else, or you could be that puzzle piece that reconnects people back with God. But to do that, you yourself need to be connected with God. Because God is like the power source. God is like the electricity. And you're like the conductor. God's power can flow through you. But for God's power to flow through you, to re-energize them, you have to close the circuit. The power can't flow until the circuit is closed. You have to connect with someone. Not on a worldly level, but on a spiritual level. Because spiritually the world is dead because of sin. But God could use us so we can bring them back to life. Just like he used someone to come to us and bring us back to life.